and welcome. We are live on Jess TV in the little tiny window on the right.
Yeah, no, you even told me.
This is How Did You Get There? It's a show where we talk about, where we're critical.
Yes.
Of thoughts, ideas, opinions, and beliefs, and not necessarily the people who hold them.
These ideas are ours. The opinions offered are ours, and we might share others, but we'll take responsibility for those opinions we share. They are not the opinions of Jess FM, other hosts, people that know Jess other than us.
And maybe not you.
No, they might not be your opinions either. In fact, if they're not, tell us. Tell us why.
Yeah, please. Yeah, we are really good about wanting to say the things, and people should be allowed to say things, but also we'll own our own consequences. Because
my freedom of speech is not a freedom of consequences.
Yes,
of that speech.
I am free to express my thoughts, but I am not free from the consequences of that expression.
Absolutely.
Oof.
Likewise, yeah, it's not indemnity to say, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if I say, but that's just my opinion, it means it's me saying this is what I believe, and while I'm inviting you, I'm not requiring you to believe the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Me expressing these things is an invitation to you, gentle viewer, to consider that my opinion might be something worth holding.
Look, he took away the display on us today.
He's doing things. It's all good.
Can do the thing. I love watching me.
Never stare at the tech.
I just want to do a little bit of front end, like just business stuff that I've witnessed in the last couple weeks.
Please do.
I saw an ad on the YouTube from the leader of the NDP. That starts
provincial or
provincial NDP.
Okay.
Starting at Analog Books and doing a little promotional thing for Lethbridge. Lethbridge is cool. This is what it offers. And Rob Shiro's the guy to represent you. I just thought it was neat. They were on it.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I saw you on the social medias. You got quoted on the social medias.
Did I?
You did.
Where? What?
I think it was on the Instagram.
Oh, nice.
Sorry, Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was you and I think it was you and Rob and somebody else, and you said something intelligent about our city.
I'll have to look that up.
I don't use the Instagram, so it was just Nancy said, "Have you seen this?" And I went, "Oh, that looks like my brother."
I have an Instagram. I could look that up.
I have one. I just
don't. Strudelbrand. The only reason I went on there was Strudelbrand, and then I just let them down right away.
Yeah, that's okay. They released their stuff first on the X.
What I also noticed about this upcoming by-election.
Yep.
Is JMH is putting himself forward as a person to represent himself as he's done on council.
The Lethbridge West UCP Constituency Association, tens of people selected him to be to be their candidate in the upcoming by-election.
Interesting.
Tens of them.
Easily.
So there's that to look forward to. So please go out and vote when that becomes an option for you.
That was kind of where I was headed.
Yep.
Is at the end of the day,
I have opinions. You should have opinions. Our goal in this show is you always really think about why you might have an opinion. And how did you get there?
What got you to that conclusion?
I wonder what the name of this show should be.
I know.
How did you get there?
A pebble in your shoe is close, though.
Yeah.
I want to just remind people. I wanted to give you something to think about too much.
My left foot, stones in my pocket.
Stones in my pocket, yeah.
Pebble in my shoe. Carry the one.
Pocket full of kryptonite.
Nice.
So today, so there's a guy, Blaise Pascal, and famous for a number of things, but weirdly most famous for his betting habits.
Yeah. He did some really cool things from the computer science perspective.
Yeah, he's a math dude.
He's a math dude. He built an adding machine, like an automated adding machine to help him do his Mathy McMathersons really much faster. although it probably wasn't Matthew McMatherson because that's like more Scottish or Irish than less French.
Arithmetic.
But it did. But his adding machine did inspire
Other adding machines?
Leibniz to build one that did multiplication. So you punch in how many times you want to add a thing, and it would automatically do that part. So that's kind of cool. Pascal was so cool. Computer scientists named a programming language after him. It's called Pascal. Unlike the programming language, the programmer Ada Lovelace, who wrote programs for Charles Babbage's difference engine, a steam-powered computing machine from the 1800s. There was a programming language named after her. She is actually cited often as being the first computer programmer, and the language that, so Pascal, Blaise Pascal, his language is Pascal. Ada Lovelace, her language is Ada. Yeah.
Wonder who invented COBOL. So I'm just...
Grace Hopper and a team. Yes. Rear Admiral Grace Hopper.
Yes. I'm aware of the Rear Admiral, indeed.
I met her once.
Nice. How cool is that?
She just happened to be tootling around the Marine Training Center in San Diego when I was down there as a Sea Cadet.
Neat.
Yeah. I had no idea about the computer sciencey part. They just said, "Oh, this is this person." I was like, "Oh, well, that's
very cool."
And then later I found out, she invented COBOL. She also invented the thing that turns language, like natural language, into computer code. She and a team built that software that did that the first time.
Neat.
Thanks. Yeah. So anyway, I dragged us way off. The other thing that mathematician, philosopher Blaise Pascal was a philosopher.
Yes.
And it was all the rage in his time to discuss God. Yes. Philosophers talked a lot about God.
To shed a little light on that, a lot of philosophy is essentially, what if? Our imagination machines, our brains, are good at observing a thing and then thinking, what if about it? Like, what if it wasn't there? What if it was blue? What if? And then playing with the consequences of that change, right?
And we also do it in reverse.
Yes, definitely.
We do it the other way. It's like, I see this thing I believe to be is. Why?
Oh, yeah.
How? Right? There is this giant rock that I couldn't have put there. You couldn't have put, like a hundred. Everyone we know couldn't put it there. Let's come up with some ideas of how and why.
But that's the what if a god put it there?
Yeah.
What if giants put it there? What if, right? So it's the same sort of.
It's the same sort of thing.
Spirally.
Yeah.
Yes, it's kind of. It's the secondary thing you do after the primary observation.
I see it. I think about it.
Yeah. So in my very primordial analysis of the situation, first science, then philosophy. Like the rock hits you in the head, and you don't think, how did that rock hit me in the head? You're like, the rock hit me in the head. It fell. Then you can get into the philosophy of what made it fall, but how is more of a sciencey question. And then
I don't know. I would interpret. I think I would interpret the same kinds of orders. I think I would use different words to describe those things.
But essentially, I would suggest that if science was a piece of meat, maggots can come and eat the piece of meat. They aren't going to have any discourse about the piece of meat.
Right.
Humans can come and eat a piece of meat. We can also have discourse about that meat. We could have so much discourse about eating that meat. We could create institutions to conserve our knowledge about meat eating.
Right. So we'd actually sit down and we could talk about the meat, and we could also talk about, like, first we would maybe sit down and talk about vegetables.
But we would still eat the meat first. or we don't have nutrient for energy.
Well, but we could sit down and talk about the vegetables, and then we could sit down and talk about the meat, and then we could sit down and talk about the sugar and flour, right? And then we could have a 3-discourse meal. Thank you.
It could, but in that way, right? So let's approach this back into where we're headed. What if we eat the meat and it does nothing, versus what if we eat the meat and it nourishes us? Is there any problem in either of these scenarios with eating the meat?
At the surface of the level you're asking the question, it should not matter to me whether I eat it or not. If it's either going to be nothing or it's going to be good.
Right. There you go.
So
that's sort of the question.
Right. So on a balance of probabilities, I may as well just go ahead and eat the meat.
And it might save you time in the future because you're already nourished.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. Right.
So that's a maybe, and maybe for the future, and a thing that you don't know for sure yet.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, if I do eat the meat, it's either good or neutral. Mm-hmm. But what if I don't eat the meat? Like maybe if I don't eat the meat, there's no negative consequence of me not eating the meat. Maybe.
What if I told you there was the fourth option?
Or if I don't eat the meat, it's very bad that I don't eat the meat.
Yeah.
Right. So
you have the eat meat nothing, eat meat good, don't eat meat nothing, don't eat meat die.
Yeah. So what should I do? Should I eat the meat or not? Right. If I look at it, assuming all of the opportunities are equal,
total variables. Yeah.
Assuming all things being equal, and I don't mean that fairly literally in this case. 25% chance that it's good for me. 50% chance that it's neutral. 25% chance that it's bad. Now I can skew those in my favor because 50% is good or neutral. 50% is neutral or bad. Which 50% would you rather be in? Do you want a chance neutral and good, or do you want a chance neutral and bad?
Exactly.
Most people are going to say, well, I'm going to chance the neutral and good.
Regardless of it, the amount of hours consumed could be wasted.
Could be wasted.
Neutral.
Yeah.
But that's only a waste of time, not a waste of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. So what happens if we were to substitute God for meat in the same?
So, like, if I were to worship God, there may be some good that comes of that, and there may be nothing that comes of that. If I fail to worship God, there may be nothing that comes of that, or there may be an eternity of suffering.
Right.
In most Christian philosophy, ECT's a thing.
Now, I can only control the thing that I do. So I can't control what that other outcome is related to the existence of the God. But I can control my actions, the other side of this thing. So I probably statistically would be better served to worship the God, the God, because either it's good or at least neutral. I've spent a little bit of energy, but it's not bad.
No.
If I don't worship the God, then
I've conserved some energy.
At best I've conserved some energy and it's neutral, but at worst I am damned for all time.
Yeah.
So I would wager, if I were Blaise Pascal setting this argument up, that it is better to worship God whether God exists or not.
Yes.
Yay, Pascal's wager.
In a very long sense.
In a very large nutshell.
Yeah. Or, as I think we semi-agree on, fear of missing out.
Oh, FOMO. Yeah. Suppose there's this television show.
Right? Yeah, the lottery ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I buy a lottery ticket and I don't win, it's just a little bit of an investment gone.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't win if I don't buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah. So I am in a lottery pool at my place of employment, which is I used to work at the college, but I don't anymore because they changed the name.
Yeah. At the Poly.
I work at the Polytech. Please, and please feel free to pronounce it with a Western Canadian accent, like Polytechnic, because that's how it's spelled, and we're not speaking French. Even though most of us in Western Canada, our big exposure to the idea and name of a polytechnic comes from terrible a terrible shooting incident at École Polytechnique. Yeah. So we're not that. We're just a polytechnic. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I belong to a lottery pool. Why? Because everybody else in the section of the campus where I work is in this lottery pool. And I don't want to come into work one day and discover I'm the only person in the building.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I spend a little bit of money every year with a little bit of hope behind it that we're gonna hit the lottery and we're gonna spread it equally. Mm-hmm. And if it's a big enough pool,
no one's going to work that day.
No one's going to work that day. Well, I probably will. Yeah. Actually, most of the people.
You guys wouldn't let your students down.
Yeah, honestly, of all the people that are in that building, I think none of them would quit right away. I think they would all work out to the end of the year at least. I'd probably still keep teaching because I like teaching.
Yeah.
So the negative consequence, my choice is buy in or don't buy in. And the pool is either going to win or they're not going to win.
So if it doesn't win, you're out some money.
Yeah, a little bit of money. Not a lot, just a little bit, relatively.
So for a minor investment of time/money, I will go back to time. Money is time.
Sure. Yeah, time is money. Money is fun. Therefore, time is fun.
Time is power. Money's power. Therefore, power is time. Tom Hanks. So then it's the small investment with a potential good payoff. If the investment isn't made, there's zero payoff.
Right.
Other than you get to keep your money.
Yeah. If I don't make the money investment, I get the small payout of I get to keep my investment, and I have the larger penalty of I get to work in a building by myself and try and do all this stuff without the support of my colleagues.
True.
Right.
Or you could break in a whole new team. Look at the advantage.
Oh, that's so much work. Oh, that is so much more work. I'd rather let that be somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
Right. I think we can actually approach any problem this way. And then in the second half of the show, we can talk about the problems of approaching these problems this way.
Well, I mean, that's where I hammer myself often on the utilitarian thing, right?
Yep.
I'm a utilitarian. Really?
Am I really?
Because I'm a good, healthy person with at least 5 usable organs. 5 other people could live a better life than just me, and that's 5 people benefiting from my one loss. Am I utilitarian? No, don't kill me. Don't harvest my organs.
Right.
So
now, if we lived in a pure utilitarian world,
that would be the case.
Right, but then those people would then have sufficient organs. Should they not be giving up their spare organs too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the whole utilitarian.
And then we all just
dilemma
until there's nobody left but one person with organs, and they have no one to give them to, so then they can live a full productive life.
Nice.
One person can survive.
That's very utility.
I think we have to have 2 people survive.
Typically, for a good breeding population, you need about 15,000.
Right, but which 15,000?
Well, I mean, the remaining.
Eugenics!
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Flashback to 2 weeks ago.
Right.
All right.
Otherwise, we'll never get deep into space.
Vaccinations.
Just things you learn about people that are watching.
Oh.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
If I may be so bold as to share, David Monroe, nephew of Marilyn Monroe, said we look like actors. We're not really actors, but
we play one on television.
I'm not a real doctor, but I'll have a look.
What was it Billy used to always say? Freelance gynecologist. I got the six terps, no waiting.
Yep.
Oh, come on.
You got to be at least this tall to ride all the rides at Jetland.
Oh, thanks.
This station break brought to you by Insanity.
Oh, how did you get there, gentle listeners?
How did we get here?
Oh, Lord.
Well, so let's apply it to something arbitrarily.
Well, I'm gonna put. The one that really made me think of it was anti-vaxxers, and they're like, "Oh, don't get vaccinated," and I'm like, okay, so your choice is, suppose the only choice is get vaccinated and don't get vaccinated, because it seems like a fairly binary thing. Either you do or you don't. I mean,
yeah. It's like pregnant. I don't think you are.
And
I don't think pregnant is a spectrum. I don't think vaccinated is a spectrum.
Well, I mean,
you could
to some degree, you could like vaccinated
on
against
specific.
Yeah, on a case by case basis or disease by disease basis.
Right, because I'm pretty sure most people measles, mumps, rubella, except for near around us, where whatever whooping cough's cool. Bring that back. Go Danielle.
Oh, Marlena. Marlena.
Sorry.
Oh, that's Alberta.
It's 6 of 1 at this point.
6 dozen of one, half of the other. Yeah, so you could get vaccinated or you could not get vaccinated. Seems like that's the binary choice. It will do. So then either it does something or it doesn't do something. I think that's the other choice, right? That's the.
I mean.
So
yes, realistically speaking,
if I get vaccinated and it doesn't do anything, well, I had to get vaccinated. If I don't get vaccinated and it doesn't do anything, well, then
that happened.
That happened. Nothing happened. It's fine. The other case is I get vaccinated and it does something positive, or I don't get vaccinated. It does something, and then I get the disease.
Yeah.
Right. Unfortunately, there's the inverse way of saying about this. I get vaccinated, something terrible happens. I don't get vaccinated, and I don't get the disease.
Yeah.
Right. So there's actually more possibilities in this Pascal's wager setup, which brings up the biggest problem with the Pascal's wager. And I know this is not the second half.
No, but we're close. We can lead in.
Yeah. Remember when I said all things being equal? That's a necessary component for Pascal's wager. I think is a necessary component for Pascal's wager to be a viable argument.
Yes, a thing I've learned it's not a strict adherence. It's not a thing I stick to, but prior probabilities to me increase the likelihood of an outcome. For example, we have prior positive feedback of vaccine success. So it is a higher probability that a vaccine will be successful than harmful.
Yep.
Did you?
I'm following along on the Facebook switch I put it open.
Yeah.
Thanks, David.
No. I should see for
red meat is a great deal. You can ask my friend Vasily Zhirov boxing, Olympian gold medalist in boxing.
Cool.
Yeah. So if all things aren't equal, then priors matter. Like and if from Boole perspective, if you're going to do the Boolean thing, you're going to need to also sort of look at the probability distribution and priors.
Yeah.
Right. So
and then most cases like that, you need at least 51% chance for it to be considered as a probable outcome.
Yeah.
Like you're not writing off all outcomes because they don't meet the mark. What you're saying is these ones are improbable.
On the balance of probability,
yeah.
This is more likely than the other.
Yeah.
Like it is demonstrably more likely that unvaccinated people get the disease versus vaccinated people getting a comparable adverse reaction.
Also, the affected outcome, like the percentage of people that would catch the disease compared to the number of people with an adverse effect from the vaccination.
Yeah. I'm going to say comparable adverse effect.
Yeah.
Like if I get a vaccination, my arm's going to hurt. That is technically an adverse effect of getting a vaccination.
That's where was it VIRS?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like up to 2 weeks after you stub your toe, you can say, oh, I was vaccinated 2 weeks ago and I stubbed my toe today. It's got to be related. And you submit that and that shows up in the reporting. Like it's...
Yep.
It's not a terrible system. At least there's some reporting going on. It's just that those statistics get just mutilated.
Yeah.
By both sides, by all sides. But that's the way it goes.
Yeah. So what do you think? Should gun ownership be a right? Well, let's Pascal's wager this.
Oh, sure. So if I own a gun, nothing? Or if I own a gun, good will happen? Are we thinking like in terms of U.S. gun ownership or just global, I deserve a gun?
Apparently, I'm saying global, I deserve a gun. It's because I exist, I could own a firearm.
Yeah.
And you can't stop me.
I mean, especially once you got one.
Because that's what's being proposed in Alberta.
Yeah.
And so I think it's worth maybe talking about. So, I mean...
So currently, let's see, there is
Can we Pascal's wager this?
Like, it's interesting. I mean, that was the point. Can we, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the proposed necessity of the gun?
Oh, it's not a right. This is an unconditional right. This is not, so you can use it for anything you want, apparently, because it's unconditional. Maybe there's other things that are illegal. You shouldn't do those things.
Oh, like I can have a gun, ought not to shoot people.
Yeah, it's against the law to shoot people, but...
So, I don't... All right.
You don't have the right to own you don't have the right to own a backhoe. You don't have the right to own a garden hoe. You don't have the right to own... You don't have the right to own clothes. But you have the right to own a gun.
I have the right to shelter.
But our clothes shelter?
Maybe.
Is that in the Alberta Charter of Rights?
It's in a much broader based charter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Likewise, the bigger, more globally spanning charter prohibits them stopping me from crossing borders, but that still happens. Let's see.
Yeah, so guns are a right, guns are not a right.
Yeah, that sounds like
that's the binary choice, right? Either they're a right or they're not a right.
All right, if guns are a right, I guess. How do I steel man this? Because it's not a position I hold.
Right, and that's where I'm going. So guns. So it's the guns versus the.
If guns are not a right, why would I make guns not a right? For the same reason I would make machetes not a right.
Or pencils.
Right? Like that's like why so I don't see a reason to.
So if guns are a right, what are the possible outcomes? Let's come up with two broad sweeping categories of outcomes of guns being a right.
Post-apocalyptic survival capability.
Good. Or we just own guns, you just own.
Or you just have a gun.
You have them, or you can successfully defend yourself against zombies.
Right? Exactly. Yep.
Sure.
I don't see a need.
Or bears, or you can get food. You could hunt for food.
You could hunt for food.
You could hunt for food.
Wouldn't that just wreck nature if that's the only way we gathered our food still?
A lot more people would be hungry.
Yeah.
So let's say it's like food and protection. We get food and protection, and it's a direct result, and it's the only way we can get that is by having guns as a right.
If we don't have guns, we cannot protect ourselves, and we may go hungry.
Right.
Okay.
So suppose having guns is not a right.
So then,
well, either nothing happens.
like I don't need to. There's no actual need to protect myself, and there is still grocery stores.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I starve and or get hunted for my pelt. Right. I can't protect myself or my loved ones, and I will go hungry. Right?
Yeah.
So
that's the consequence of not having one.
Yeah.
Of being prohibited from owning one.
Yeah. So is it better? By Pascal's wager, we should make guns a right.
Yes. Because the positive potential outcome outweighs the potential negative outcome.
Yeah.
Nobody wants the negative outcome.
Nobody wants the
Nobody
negative
wants
outcome.
to be hungry, dead, and eaten by zombies.
Right. So therefore,
In that order.
Therefore, we should make it a right. I think that's a specious argument.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that
I don't think that we've done actually anything to verify that we would actually go hungry if we don't have guns.
Right.
That so in the American aspect, they like to point to the situation in China and say that if the Chinese had guns, they wouldn't be in the situation they're in now.
Okay.
In that their government would not have such strict control over them if John Q. Chinaman had a gun. That's basically their logic. The situation in the Ukraine wouldn't be so bad if every Ukrainian would have had a gun. Right? See, Israel could protect itself because everyone in Israel has a gun.
So we don't need to help Israel.
I would agree. But like that's the logic. So the reason, and at the time they initiated this, please train a militia, please keep them well prepared. There were concerns about being taken back by the British. Very legitimate ones. They were kind of a suck-wind nation till the late 1800s. So there was like a need in that sense that they could need to protect their families. Well, they're not even though. Like, this is the thing. They're only doing it to protect a way of life. With no certainty that is the best way of life, just that's the way of life they prefer.
We have this way of life.
We need to protect.
We have decided to have this style of government, and we want to maintain this style of government, and we would like the right to be able to readjust government back to this style. So we will never allow the government to prevent us from putting it back to this style. That was the intent.
Yes. I promise you, and why you don't stand a chance.
But like 200 plus years ago,
you
absolutely stood a chance because there were way more of you than there were very few regulars.
Very much so.
Everyone was militia, and you
were a well-regulated, trained militia with a weapon.
So maybe we don't need that.
That perhaps we have systems in place that can protect our liberty, our way of life.
Yep.
Without our individual need to do so.
Yeah.
Like, as a group, we're good at this now. We don't need individuals to do it anymore. It's not that individuals shouldn't pay attention to how it's done. It's that mechanism of societal protection already exists.
Yeah. I think,
let's do it. Let's give everyone a gun and change the Alberta government.
Whoa.
Let's do it. I like the idea. Do it. It's so hard being an anarchist and a pacifist. I know what needs to change and how to change it. I'm not the guy to do it. Ugh. It hurts people.
Speaking of change, I hope you're not thinking of changing that dial. Do people use dials anymore?
Yes.
Okay.
I have I guess knob
Yeah, I have a knob too.
Knob. Like the doorknob. You turn it.
Yeah, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after these station identification messages. Hi.
This is Stephen and Jeff from the thing you're watching.
Yeah. You should keep tuned in. This is How Did You Get There?
A show where we're critical of thoughts, ideas, opinions, and beliefs.
And
not necessarily the people that hold them. Stupid Blaze Pascal.
Yeah.
You come here and fight like a man.
Marcus of Queensbury rules.
Who probably
Thanks, Marcus.
Thanks, Marquis.
Yeah.
He's not the Marquis of Queensbury, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Marquis.
I would just
Mark. Although,
because Polytechnic, that's where I was going with that one.
Did you ever watch the Mike Tyson Mysteries?
Yes.
Where Mike Tyson, bless his heart, plays like just the stupid version of Mike Tyson, and the Marquis of Queensbury is the ghost of the Marquis of Queensbury is a character, and Mike Tyson calls him Marcus.
Yep. Hello, Marcus. We have moments.
Drink.
So here we are deciding how to apply
Pascal's wager to all the situations and discovering
a really hard one. We found a very hard one.
Yeah. So I just to talk about the
belief notions that can be countered this way rather than physical outcomes. Like I believe that, and so my belief that, right? My belief that gun ownership should be protected versus my belief that it should not.
Yeah. So should I put myself in the camp that says I believe that gun ownership is a right? Should I believe that to be true? Because if I'm right, it means they won't kill me.
So just wrench in the mix.
Laurentians in the mix?
Yes.
How elite of you.
I know. So another reason for weapon ownership is the hobbyist.
Ooh, yeah.
There are people that recreationally shoot their firearms at targets because it relaxes them.
Sure.
It's a thing they like to do. They like to collect these things and display them, just like car collectors or doll collectors or any other kind of collector. It's a thing people are fascinated by, collect, and it's their passion.
Yep.
So I would say that is a positive thing that I would put into my thing category box filter, in that gun rights should be protected because I'm allowed to act, and nobody's made a prohibition against Shakespeare yet.
Not recently.
Well, exactly, right?
And the other ones have been lifted.
And locally, right? There's countries where some plays can't be done.
True story. True facts.
And so I would, right? So in that vein, my ability to do the thing I like is protected, and I think others' ability, and I'm aware there's consequences. People could throw tomatoes at me for my rotten performance, whatever. Again, there could be consequences.
Yeah.
But I think somebody's right to participate in their hobby, if that involves my preserving their right to gun ownership.
Yeah. Just
as a probability, like, am I going to keep people? Am I going to have a greater group of happy people than unhappy people if I protect gun rights or don't protect gun rights?
Yeah. So where I would sit in this is, I don't think it needs to be a right.
Well, you make a really good case for that. Like, I don't have a right to own a hoe. No, that is incorrect. I am not prohibited from owning a hoe.
But you don't have a specific right.
No, exactly. But there are certain prohibitions on certain weapons.
Right. And maybe that's, like, I claim that ownership of an object is not necessarily, nor should it necessarily be,
ever
a right.
Not my right to own a car. I can sure kill
It's not your right.
It.
It's not even your right to own a house.
Nope, agreed.
But
my right to
it is your right to be It is your right to be sheltered.
Yep.
Right, but that doesn't guarantee you the ownership.
Oh goodness, no.
It doesn't even guarantee you the means.
Nope.
It just guarantees you the right to be sheltered.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that we need if we're gonna have gun rights, so that people say, well, you can't take away my right to own a gun. Well, if you have the right to be sheltered, you can't take away my shelter.
Do you? Yeah.
Right? And maybe that'd be a good thing. Maybe by granting gun rights, the good thing we get is
other
the same
rights that have been granted can now be easier
the same
enforced.
vigorous application of rights to things like the right to education,
medical, fresh water,
the right to clean water. Yeah.
Weirdly, that makes good sense. Like,
I still think it's a terrible idea.
It's a terrible idea.
But maybe
it's one of those. If we can't kill them with kindness, we would love to give you your gun ownership rights. Well, I might put a stack of obstacles into like what qualifies you as a gun owner. Right? You're allowed to own. Like, I'm allowed to drive. I have a right to be able to drive.
You don't even have that, but yeah.
But
you have not been prohibited.
I have not been, but like, there's no prohibition in my way. I still need to meet the standard.
Yes.
So if I protect your right to gun ownership, it doesn't mean that you necessarily get to own a gun. I'm just protecting your right to be able to.
Yeah, but it's not the right to be able to own a gun. It's the right to own a gun. Right, and that's the problem.
That's what makes it terrible. Yeah.
Right, and like I'm all for privileges. Like, I think everybody has the opportunity, should have the opportunity.
I know what you're saying, but I don't think it's privilege is what you mean.
Everyone
has the opportunity.
Yeah, I do mean privilege, but it's become a loaded word.
Yeah, well, to me it means that one is advantaged over another. First over privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so I'm the first in the town. It's a privilege.
Yeah, that's right. Woo. That's where the gossip starts.
Yeah, it is. I have the opportunity to drive a car.
Yes.
I have the opportunity to own a car, or both.
Yes.
There's no guarantee that I can or may.
No. Yeah, it would be like legislating that everyone is well. Okay, what are the?
I don't have to. Now, even if it's a right, I don't have to do the thing.
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't.
My brain
it's not an obligation.
Okay.
It's not obligatory to own a firearm.
It's just once you have one, no one can take it from you.
Correct. For any reason, because it's a right. It's a right. Unless you're going to suspend somebody's rights.
No one stops feeding me just because I had a food fight.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you do have the right.
Right? I'm wasting food. I still have a right to food.
You do have a right to freedom of the person, but when you break the law, we throw you in jail and you can't go anywhere.
Right. Right.
Right. So that we're actually taking away a right.
This has been my case about rights the whole time. How quickly you lose yours once you interfere with someone else's, and then they aren't anymore because they can just be.
This is
suspended. A suspension of your rights has happened because of your infraction against somebody else's.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So first, I mean, I want to tackle that issue, but that's not the issue today.
So let's get away from guns because I don't think we'd solve that one with this.
Bodily autonomy.
All right. So we played a little bit of the bodily autonomy game with vaccinations.
Right, and so that would be part of it, the same case, right? But so we just instead of just vaccinations, I have the right to bodily autonomy.
I believe that everyone should have the right to bodily autonomy.
Yes.
I believe bodily autonomy is a right.
Yeah.
Either it is or it isn't.
It's for our viewers at home.
Yeah. Sorry. I'll do this way off the top of the screen so nobody can see what I'm doing. Now I'm a big monkey.
That's fun.
Either it is or is not a right. And we can't know. We don't know what actually a right. I mean, we know what a legislated right is.
Yeah.
But when
I hear about innate or
unalienable, as it says in the American Constitution, not inalienable, unalienable.
Like not able to be made foreign.
Right. It cannot be taken away from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yet they
God-given rights.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we hold those truths to be self-evident. Like it's true because it's true.
It's true because I said so.
All tautologies are true.
is a great one. That's a t-shirt. All tautologies are true.
I would rather have one that said all tautologies are false.
That's great. You sell those at the U, third
Yep.
floor. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, just give me a giggle second here.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe there is an unalienable right to bodily autonomy. Maybe there isn't. If I believe that there is, and I put into legislation the thing that is unalienable, what's going to happen?
So, if
I believe it and act on it, and it's not actually a right, what do we lose?
bodily autonomy.
No, but I
see what you mean. Yeah,
right.
Nothing. We could lose nothing then because we're already in that state now.
Or I could gain
bodily autonomy for all.
People actually respect the other's bodily autonomies because we force them to. Right? Now, suppose I sit in the camp where I don't believe bodily autonomy is a right, and I specifically act in a way that supports my belief that bodily autonomy is not a right.
You would force people to have vaccinations as an example.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just
for a relatively benign example. Right? And so the general outcome is either it's not a right and people are violated, or it is a right and people are way more violated.
Yeah.
Right? If it's not a right, but I act like it's not a right, then
You're still violating
I'm violating, but that's okay. They're allowed to. We are allowed to.
We're not doing a rights violation. We're just doing a human's violation, individual violation.
Yeah, and that's a whole. It's less bad than you having a right and me saying, up yours.
Yeah. To legislate against my right is bad. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So Pascal's wagering this. It is we should probably act as if we have a right, even if whether we do or we don't have a right. We should act as if we have a right because it's either neutral or actually supportive.
Right. And then I think that's just a case I make. It's hard for me because I do want, and I have no problem with people saying no to their vaccine. We just need to have them accept the consequences of that choice, right? In terms of safety. We might not have had 8 million strains had everybody not listened to the Weinsteins, just as an example.
Yeah.
Right?
George?
Brett. And brother Eric.
Harvey?
Well, yeah. No, nobody listened to him.
Some people listen to him.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's how they got jobs.
That's how
Too soon?
he got jobs. Anyway. Or should I say Catherine the So-So? Too soon.
Too anachronistic.
But that's like with the same that people, the same right, this bodily autonomy, in my opinion, is my right to say no to the vaccine and my right to abort my baby. To me, it's the same.
Yep.
And so, and I feel that that bodily autonomy is a thing that should be protected. I don't think it's a right, but I don't think anything is. But if we're going to use colloquial termage, right? Would be like, yeah.
If we use colloquially, right means should be protected for you.
Unless you really screw up, this should happen for you. Right?
Yeah, this should be available to you.
But like you kill someone, we don't think you should be free anymore. We'll take that right away from you.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, and that's where I hate because rights have a specific meaning. But it is it is a thing. It is an opportunity available to you.
Yeah. I think
right.
We guarantee the opportunity as long as you don't do anything to prohibit yourself from that same opportunity.
And I think if we were to, we could actually then use the Pascalian method on that preserving opportunity. Opportunities should be preserved versus opportunities should be arbitrary.
Ooh, yeah.
Right. So there are like the notion of opportunity to is just a set of words that don't have meaning, right? So that a right is a concept that has a meaning, or a right is a concept that does not have a meaning.
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of fun. Sorry, my brain just wandered right into. We have a thing. It either is or isn't. So it's either determined, or it's random.
Yeah.
Like, what's in between determined and random?
Chaotically constrained.
I guess, right? System theory applies, chaos theory applies, but basically things are either determined or random.
Yeah.
So,
but if I had come up with a third category, it would be stochastically constrained.
Sure.
Which is literally right between them. But things will happen, but they will never happen outside a particular framework. What happens inside that framework, although it will allow you to see the framework, the little individual parts are all random.
That's my soft determinism side too. Life is determined. It's a bathtub.
Yep.
I put whatever I want in the bathtub.
Sierpinski gaskets.
Yeah.
They are great. The triangles where you set up a random set of rules. You have 3 points on a page. You roll a die, and 1, 2, or 3. If it's a 1, you put a dot at the 1.
Oh, I've watched the dude. And there's great videos of this.
And
stuff.
you can do this, and
it's just so cool.
I wrote software to do it when
Nice.
I was 30 years ago. And
when I was 30 years ago.
Yeah, when I was 30 years ago. You know when that happened? About 30 years ago.
No, wait, what?
30. It's a true story.
And a half.
I said about. Right, but it's random. We are arbitrarily, randomly, stochastically generating numbers, and from this random thing appears this recursive shape. There's just triangles inside and engaged in or inscribed in triangles and inscribed in triangles, and there's always going to be gaps, and they're predictable, but we don't know where the next dot's necessarily going to be on any given go.
Right.
So it's somewhere between there, and maybe the universe is like that. So if the universe is like that, and I believe that it's like that, and I act within that, what's the consequences?
Well, if it isn't like that, you're still able to adapt to either of the other two initial options.
Yep.
And if it is like that, then that is.
Then I'm very well prepared.
If it is not like that, and you live as though that is the case, live as though that isn't the case, then no harm, no foul. If it's not like that, and you live as though it is the case, you'll just be confused lots with your choices in life.
Which seems pretty terrible.
But is likewise how most things go for most people anyway. So on a realism scale, on a philosophical scale, a lot hinges on that. Right?
Yeah.
Is it, right? Odds are, no. It's either random or determined.
So, and in the long tradition of teaching people a trade before the time of writing things down and reading and writing, where you might teach them that you need to measure this much for a distance. As a rule of thumb, we could use, and this is not the
one of the many meanings of the rule of thumb.
Specifically, it's not the one that was impugned or implied and sort of thrown against a character who didn't actually say the thing.
No,
Yes, but as a rule of thumb, Pascal's wager can be a powerful tool for helping you decide a thing. I think. But it's
if all values are equal.
If all values are equal,
Pascal's wager is really good.
Right. But there's always going to be more to consider. Right? You can't just.
Not everything is so black and or white.
Yeah.
Sure, God exists. We could say there is a God, there is not a God. Cool. But if I'm the Pascal's wager guy making this bet, I have to also factor in which God.
Which flavor of which Christian God are we talking about this week?
And then not just that, but every other faith with all of its other gods. Because the prior probability of those gods existing prior, etc., 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 the usefulness of the claim, all those things. There are equal accounts and attestations, if not more, in the Hindu faith for miracles, demons, all of those kinds of things. That it's more probable then, based on the historical accounts or the recorded accounts from history.
So if we were to arm Blaise Pascal with Occam's razor, we could get a nice clean shave.
Blazing hot shaves.
Blazing hot shaves with Occam's razor.
That's
Occam's barber shop.
I guess, eh?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, but that's really what it comes down to. In these kinds of wagers, is we want to have some rational reason for doing a thing. We want that.
Yeah.
Like we want to come up with some conclusion that makes us feel good about our actions.
Yeah, we don't want, to put it backwards. When you're younger and someone says, "What's your favorite color?" and you're like, "Blue." Why is that? I don't know. I just like blue. Cool. That's a really good answer. It's totally honest. But if you're like, "Why do you believe in God?" You're like, "I don't know. I just do." People are like, well. So in that way, that's what you're meaning about trying to. There should be a reason or a rationalization to justify the position. We like to have those for ourselves. The reason my favorite color is blue is it relaxes me, right? Like we come up with those later in life. I like orange because it goes with my hair or whatever.
Yeah, orange is the new black.
It is. Well, this weekend, that was close. I'm sorry. That was closer than I thought it would be. As soon as they crossed my lips, it was funny.
And then I immediately went, "Oh, wow." When the United States had a previous change of president.
Yeah, orange is
black is the new orange.
Well, orange is
the new black.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Pumpkin spice. That's next week. No.
Yeah. So maybe again we have to. I think arming Blaise Pascal with Occam's razor is good because you're going to make the bet. Mm-hmm. You're going to make the justification. But you need to choose probably something that is simple enough to be obvious enough, right?
What is the most parsimonious with the best predictive capability?
Correct.
That's what I'm going with. If it requires little explanation and I can make other choices based on it, it seems like a useful tool.
Yeah, there could be an infinite number of gods.
Yes.
The number of gods ranges from 0 to infinite. Mm-hmm. Which means if we divide it into two choices, 0 gods or infinite gods, because one or more gods, it is actually statistically more likely that there's one or more gods than it is that there's just 0, because 0 relative to one thing relative to infinity is infinitesimally small.
Yes.
So statistically, we should pick that there is God or gods.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
It just doesn't necessarily make the simplest explanation for what's going on.
Yeah, having made that choice, what other modeled predictions can I make from that choice?
Right. So again, by itself, Pascal's wager, probably not the strongest decision-making tool, but combined with other rational tools that we have, it could lead us in the right way. If you don't know where to start, maybe just draw the box. This is, yes, I do. No, I don't. This is what happens if I'm right. This is what happens if I'm wrong.
For those of us who took this, and I mentioned this further in grade 5 when we did our pros and cons lists.
Yep.
We're doing that times 2. It's the same thing. We're just having the what ifs and the what if nots, and then the pros and cons on each of those.
Or SWOT analysis.
Yes.
Strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats.
Yeah.
Right? And that's Pascal's wager for business.
Game theory.
Yep.
In a weird way.
I don't know. Once again, I don't think we came to any conclusions today, except nearing the.
There would be no harm coming from me saying we'll be here in 2 weeks, and you not watching, but you could be missing out.
Yeah. So
by not being here in 2 weeks and watching.
So to alleviate your fear of missing out, tune in 2 weeks' time. Until then, I'm Stephen.
I'm Jeff.
And this has been How Did You Get There?
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Jess.